Thank you for joining me on the Southwest Florida Business Podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and I'm excited to share this episode today with you. And this is Bill Daubmann from My Shower Door. And this was the exact conversation that I needed to have with the stage of where my business is at. So it was nice to talk to Bill about how all of this started and how they viewed the opportunities that came up that allowed them to actually grow this business over the course of 30 years to get from where it started to where it's at now. And we talk a lot about some of the mistakes that we made in the beginning and how you actually can learn from that. But then also we really dive into what it takes to grow a business that is scalable and that can be successful the way that they have. So I'm very excited to share this with you. I hope that you get as much out of this that I did. And again, just like the last episode and talking about what we've learned so far, add this to that list. I have probably 10 more things that I need to start thinking about and implement into my business now that I had this conversation. So I really hope that you guys enjoy this. I hope you get as much out of it as I did. And reach out and let me know what you think about this episode and if you're going to apply any of this stuff to your business. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode with Bill Daubmann from My Shower Door. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcast. If you're a business in Southwest Florida and you want to use a podcast to grow your business, scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the show notes at www.swflpodcast.com. Enjoy the show. You want to roll into it?
Fire away.
All right. Bill, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. What a great studio, too. It really is.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. And thank you for all the swag, bringing in the My Shower Door swag.
That's what we do.
Yeah. You'll probably see this on some future episodes, too.
I'm hoping.
Yeah. So I wanted to dig into a couple of things, and we were just talking beforehand, before we even sat down in the chairs, just about some general business mindset of what it takes to be an entrepreneur and really what goes into it. And like we were talking about before is I got a lot of this wrong for pretty much almost the first year of being in business. And as I started to change some of it, my business has started to change and it's starting to grow much faster. But I would kind of like to just start there in terms of first thing that comes to mind in terms of what should you be looking for as a newer entrepreneur. Maybe you're just starting, maybe you're in it about a year. What are some key things that you think that entrepreneurs should be looking for or should kind of have as a mindset?
It's a great question, and I get asked that a lot by new entrepreneurs. And we always say that the whole reason that anybody's in business is to solve a problem. So you have to look at what problems are out there that are not being solved or could be solved better, or could be there's not enough people to solve the amount of problems out there. So in our case, it happens to be frameless shower doors, but it could be legitimate podcasts with good information. Could be air conditioning companies. Even though there's 500 air conditioning companies, a lot of them are small companies. One-man show, they can't handle big company things. So you have to take a look at the market and what problems can you solve? Or can you build a company to bring on a massive amount of people to solve them on a bigger scale? So you have to have the product or service. Second of all, you have to have some kind of a process. So if you're going to grow and expand your business and hire people, you have to have a process so that everybody within your company does things the same way. And the last thing is you have to have the right people. So we call it the 3 Ps: product, process, and people.
Okay.
The people have to be of the same type of mindset. It's all about customer service, solving the problem. You're a solution team. Whatever that solution is that you sell, basically that's what you're doing, is solving a problem. It could be that people are hungry, so restaurants solve that problem. They don't have the time to eat at home. So if you really analyze everything, car dealerships, people need to get around. Maybe their job takes them to other cities, so they need a comfortable car. Then you start narrowing it down. Then as an entrepreneur, you should look at, can you price yourself accordingly? What I find the glass business is notorious for having really good craft people, good at their craft,
Okay.
but not good at running the business end of it, meaning understanding marketing, understanding return on investment, the profit and loss sheet, the balance sheet, all of the metrics that big businesses look at, smaller businesses kind of fly by the seat of their pants. Now, how do I know that? Because that's what I did.
Yeah.
And when you just said you found out you got it wrong, yeah, I've got more wrongs than you can imagine.
Yep.
And it's, we're not a overnight success. I'm in this over 30 years. So you would think over 30 years I should finally figure it out, right? And it was just over the last maybe 10 years that this thing started rolling the way it should roll, or the way I intended it to roll. But it seemed like we got one step forward and 3 steps back. Then you had to make an investment. Then you had to do this and that. And if you don't have the right amount of capital or something, either you're selling a product where there's enough markup in there where you can fund yourself, you have to get a good relationship with a bank or a family member that can fund you, depending on how much money you need. But there's so many times that cash is going to be a real problem to run your business, especially if you're meeting payroll, paying your taxes, advertising. So you have to have enough operating capital to keep you going and persevere. Now, in Southwest Florida, notoriously, we're off-season right now. Now, you look around, it's significantly less traffic than there was in the height of season, but there's still a lot of people here.
Yeah.
Now, back the clock up 20 years, it was a real drop-off in off-season. Well, we're fortunate that we're in Florida. People are flocking to Florida because we were basically open during the pandemic. It's a very business-friendly state. There's good reasons to live in Florida, and I see us as one of the 3 or 4 states in the country that people are flocking to.
Big time.
So Florida businesses, there's so many opportunities for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's huge. Well, and going back to the one thing you said of going 1 step forward, 3 steps back. That for me in the early stages of this has been a huge theme, even diving into starting this business, then thinking that I had it all solved, and then all those plans fall apart and you fall back and then you figure something out and you keep moving forward. How do you, well, maybe it's different now, but when you were starting off, what was that like? How did you navigate through that? What was, if you can remember, what was the mindset that kind of helped you to navigate that and keep going?
So let's back it way up if you want to know really from the start.
Yeah, please.
So we're from Western Massachusetts in the greater Springfield area. I had a job. I went to college. I took electrical technology. I was installing security systems, burglar alarm systems, fire alarm systems. I was an athlete all my life. I got into playing hockey. I was a really good hockey player. Then I got into officiating, where I started doing youth hockey, juniors, high school, college, and eventually professional hockey. But that was part-time. That was not a full-time job. It was part-time. I was fortunate that I married a girl that has a business mind. She was a professional hairdresser. Her mom owned a shop, so she's familiar with the long hours that you need to put in to make your business successful and be very persevering when times are bad, and the things the late nights you have to put in. People don't realize the things that you have to do to build your business.
It was a rude awakening for me.
And I was lucky my wife came from that world.
Yeah.
And we did it as a team. And once I had to transition from working to somebody to starting our own business, I did it out of necessity. Keith got sick at a very young age. I was traveling most of New England officiating hockey, and Donna couldn't take care of Keith and Doug. Doug was 4 years behind Keith. Keith was 11 years old, so Doug was 7. I couldn't be away and have her take him to treatments and all. So we had to figure out a way how we could be in business for ourselves, be able to take care of the kids and still make a living. And it was difficult, so we started out of our house. Now, we didn't start doing shower doors. We were doing closet organizing systems. I was the first one in Western Massachusetts to do the white wire closet-made shelving that you see in all of the Lowe's and Home Depot.
Okay.
But realize back in 1986, Lowe's and Home Depot weren't in existence. Neither was the internet. It was a different world.
Yeah.
But we grew that, and I used part-time firefighters for my installers, which was great. They had a great schedule. They worked 2 days a week and had the rest of the week off. They worked on different rotations. And I became the number one supplier of closet-made shelving in Western Massachusetts and Northern Connecticut.
So going back to seeing a problem and trying to solve it for somebody, how did that become the business at that time?
Well, everybody has, no matter where you are, they have storage problems. I mean, you see storage places going up all the time currently right here in Southwest Florida. But closet space was always at a premium, and the builders only provided you a simple shelf and rod. And I was one year going to my lawyer's office to get my taxes done. I was sitting in a waiting room, and I was flipping through a Home Builder Association magazine, and I saw this new product. And to me, it looked like refrigerator racking,
Yeah.
And it still looks that way. I asked my friend, who was the lawyer, if I could take that magazine home to show my wife, and she said, "You're crazy." I said, "No, I really think we can make a business of this." And we called around, and the big company that was selling it was called Closet Made, based out of Ocala, Florida, and they were setting up dealerships at that time. And there was nobody in Western Massachusetts. Nearest one was a little east of Worcester, almost towards Boston.
Okay.
And we set up a meeting with that gentleman, and we got the dealership for Western Massachusetts and into Hartford, Connecticut, and was selling a lot of it. And we were up to 12, 13 installers at one point. And then a builder came to us and asked us to do shower doors. And I didn't know the first thing about glass or shower doors. And back then, basically the shower doors were ones that would come in a box like you would buy at a big box store now, and have to try and install that for them because their tile guys didn't want to do it, their carpenters didn't want to do it. They didn't have a glass guy that was capable of doing the volume of work that he needed.
Okay.
So that was an augmentation into the closet business. So then we were doing closet shelving and shower doors and other specialty items that builders didn't want to do. I had a meeting with builders. I said, "What problems can I solve for you?" So, "Well, I hate it when I finish a house and then the homeowner goes to the hardware store and they pick up the numbers for the side of the house, the mailbox, the medicine cabinet, toilet paper holders, and towel bars. I don't want to be bothered with these things. I would love for you to install those." We started that. So we became their specialty contractor. So when we were installing closet shelving, shower doors, medicine cabinets, grab bars, towel bars, toilet paper holders, the things that were nuisances for builders, that was the problem we were going to solve.
Okay.
So that started somewhere in the 80s, I'd say mid-80s, about 86. We got into the shower doors at around 88. I met a fellow out of Norwalk, Connecticut named Tom Whitaker, who owned Mr. Shower Door and wanted to grow that into a national franchise. But he never got it to there, so we did a license agreement instead of franchising. So we were Mr. Shower Door when we were in Massachusetts. So that way we augmented that into our closet shelving business. Well, I'll shorten up the story a little bit. My wife and I were out doing an estimate at a customer's home after one of those nasty rainstorms that froze over and then you had that light covering of snow.
Yep.
Her feet went out from under her. She landed on both wrists, and before she got off the ground, she said, "That's it. We're moving to Florida." That's it. Didn't matter if we had a business, a house, and everything else. We're moving to Florida.
We'll live in a tent if we have to.
Best move ever made.
Yeah.
Best move ever made. And when we sold the business up there, we moved here. Started with just my wife, myself, and my son, Doug. Keith stayed up north with the new owners of the business to help them through their transition period, and then moved down here. So we started with the 4 original family members. We opened up our North Naples showroom September of 2003 with the 4 of us.
Okay.
Today, we're at 10 showrooms with the opening of our architectural showroom last week, 175 employees. And we're located around the state of Florida. Now, I said before, this is not an overnight thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, "Oh, wow, they grew overnight." No, it's been a 30-year journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey. And every year you progress and you make those mistakes and you learn from them and you adjust. You're lucky. You learned early before you went out of business.
Yeah.
94% of businesses fail after the first 2 years. They don't even make it.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think what I see in the glass industry, there's a lot of good craftsmen, but they're not good business people. They're just not. They don't know how to control their inventory. They don't know how to advertise. They'll get some word of mouth, and they'll make some money because their overhead's really low.
Sure.
So they'll be a disruptor for a short period of time. But over the long haul, because they're not doing things the right way, setting up processes, hiring people, taking care of people, giving them what you should if you want them to be long-term employees. You got to give them some kind of benefits, paid vacation, holiday pay, sick pay. Those are hard to do.
Yeah.
Very hard when you're starting. Just imagine taking on a payroll of 4 or 5, and you got to come up with that kind of income every single week.
Yeah. Well, and I can put myself in their shoes just from the early perspective of knowing that I need to hire people and I need to do that in order to grow.
Yeah.
But then you have to look at the amount of money that's coming in. Can you justify it? Okay, if I was to do this, who should I look at? What kind of person do I need to hire? I don't necessarily need an admin person, but I might need somebody who's really skilled at this. But can they do these 5 other things that I need to do? Is that unrealistic to think? Should I focus just on something that's they have a set skill that I can hand everything in that area off? I'm kind of going through these questions myself, so I can understand where they would come from. But I also think about the business itself as, I don't know, try to think in the bigger picture of, okay, if I were to do X, Y, and Z, I would put myself in a bad position by doing that, but I see that there's this problem that I could solve over here. Let me figure out what kind of revenue that I can have coming in from this and try to pursue that and then build things around that. So as you can tell, as I'm speaking, like I'm still trying to figure this aspect of the business out. But it's weird. It's kind of unfolding itself to me as I work on it, as I try things, as I fail at things. You find little successes, fail at other things. It's kind of like speaking to me in a way.
You have to be aware of opportunities, and you have to be aware of the things that aren't going to monetize for you. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be doing charitable work or giving back to the community. Those are all good things, and they're positive, and good things come from it. But how much time can you spend on it? I guess it's like if you're on an airplane that's going down, they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, then help others, right? Because you're the leader of the ship. So you have to make sure the business is going to be sustainable and then start working out from there. That's the hard part. A lot of people think of business owners as greedy people, and that's not it. What we are is very protective of the business that we're trying to grow, and we want the business to succeed. I'll go without a paycheck. It's not the paycheck. It's the business. The business is the value. At the end of the day, you'll build something that you'll want to sell. You don't want to work all your life and have nothing, just shut the doors. You want to be able to turn it over to somebody and continue to generate revenue and continue to service the customers that you've been servicing all these years. Yeah. That's an important thing. And people want to do business with you if you're going to have that frame of mind that they'll still be taken care of.
Is that a key that people should keep in mind when they're starting a business or as they're growing a business? Like that aspect of doing the work you do, yes, to solve the customer issue, but also for the sake of the business itself and the sustainability of it and things like that. I mean, is that something that's important? And if so, like, why would that be a critical piece?
To me, that's always important. I mean, you always have to have from when you start, if you're going to start a baseball game or a hockey game, you have a goal. Your goal is to win that game. And how do you get there, right? But there's so many factors that are going to happen between the start of that game and the end of the game. So when you start a business, you have a goal. What is your goal? Is your goal going to be to make enough money where you can close the doors and walk away from it? Or is your goal to build a business big enough that you'll get a payoff at that end, and yet the business will still be going because you'll have trained people to do things in the way you've done it and improve upon it, or sell it to somebody that is at a higher level that can bring it into their portfolio of businesses they have. So you may sell to, I don't know, let's take a weird example, NBC2, that may want to start this type of a local podcast as opposed to just broadcasting. You never know. There's so many reasons. Naples News has an agency that does podcasts.
Yeah.
Somebody like that may be very interested if you get this going. At least you have an end game here. Now you want to develop everything to that end goal. Along the way, you're going to make adjustments. You're going to make mistakes. Those happen. Mistakes are probably more important than if you did everything 100% right.
I've learned a lot more from my mistakes so far.
We all have.
Yeah.
I've got scars from my mistakes.
Yeah.
Both here and mentally. And I've lost sleep over it. But it makes you stronger. Mm-hmm. And it makes you think that any day could be the last day. And you also have to think that there's somebody out there waking up every morning trying to take your business from you. Somebody else is going to say, hey, Chris Hines got something good there. I can't let him go too strong. I've got to do my thing. So your success is fueling somebody else's desire.
Yeah.
And that's something you really have to consider all the time.
Okay. And so that's interesting because I look at based on everybody I've talked to, but I look at what you guys do after talking with Christel Construction. There's another group called Sugar Shack Sessions. Like they do video and they film like reggae festivals and things like that. But looking at these other people's work and seeing them succeed makes me want to succeed as well. Like I look at what they're doing and I try to incorporate those same successful pieces. Maybe I'm too early on to be like, I got to take this piece of it. But do you see most people when they view that stuff as they want to come like take piece of your business, or is it help them out so they can figure out their own thing? Is it a mix? How do you view that from like a business strategy perspective?
Well, okay, so I watch our competitors. I watch other business people. Like I get involved in the EDC and the Chamber of Commerce, so I understand other businesses. Some people watch us because they like our business model. They like the fact that we're community orientated. They like it for one reason or other. Maybe they like our marketing. Maybe they like Keith on LinkedIn. He's creative and they like that. But then there's people within the glass business that do things like we do. They've changed from what they did in the past to the way we do things. And I've seen that.
Yeah.
And yes, it's flattering, but by the same token, saying, okay, whatever I'm doing, they're noticing it. I've got to raise the bar higher now.
Yeah.
I've raised the bar once. I've got to do it again and again and again. Come out with a new product. Be the first to market with that new product. I spent a lot of money on patenting a certain few products that we came up with. And I realized at the end of the day that it was way too much money to spend on that because you then have to defend it. If somebody goes and copies what you do, you have to show loss. How are you going to prove that? How are you going to prove how much money you lost because somebody else copied that?
Yeah.
And do you have enough money to defend it? And is it worth doing it?
Yeah. And does it take you off your other goals of consistently
does.
Improving?
Of course it does.
Yeah.
It totally does. And is it all that important? Just be the first to market and sell it. Let them figure out what it is they got to do to catch up to you. But then don't stop. When you get a new product, get the next one and the next one and the next one. They're going to be way behind. But if you just sit on your laurels and say, I did it, they're going to catch you.
So why do you think that way? Like, is that something that you've kind of developed that mindset over time, or is this something that you had pretty early on that you've just kind of enhanced and nourished that, or was there something that made you realize that that's kind of the way that you should operate?
Well, being in business for so many years, I don't sit back either. I mean, I listen to podcasts, I read books of successes of other businesses and what they've done and how they have to morph into something else or transition or adjust from mistakes, augment. I mean, I've got a product line that I could do 50 things with. There's guys out there that are selling glass chair mats. I could turn our factory into turning out glass chair mats, but is that where I want to be? Maybe not. If the economy turned really bad, maybe it's an option.
Sure.
But we're choosing not to do that as an option. When COVID hit and a lot of places shut down, the glass panels we started making were COVID barriers. Now you go into stores and you see plexiglass panels, and those are good temporary solutions. But when you go into City Hall, Lee County collectors' offices, they want something solid, substantial, heavy glass.
Yeah.
Maybe with a hole for a speaker and a place to pass documents underneath. We started making that. So a lot of people know us as My Shower Door, but we also own the glass manufacturing plant called D3 Glass, which makes tabletops, COVID partitions, office partitions, wine closets, humidors, glass railing systems. So we've got an offshoot of the My Shower Door brand.
Yeah, and so I probably can go a bunch of different ways here, but so you started off with the shower doors, the installations, everything like that. Was there a moment where, was it because you got to a certain size that new opportunities to create new products opened up? Were you kind of doing that in a smaller scale the whole time? How did the business evolve to actually being able to expand beyond just shower doors?
Yeah, no, you hit it exactly right, because you have to get that wheel going. You have to get your processes and all the people in place before you take it to the next step. And then obviously money is important. Now, we've always prided ourselves being very, very frugal. Until we built the building, which was 2 years ago, we were self-funded. We didn't borrow money.
Yeah.
We just didn't borrow money. We wouldn't buy it until we had it. Now, a lot of glass shops around, they don't even order their hardware until they sell a job. So if I went out to Chris Hines' house and I measured for a custom shower door, and I know that it's going to need 2 hinges, a handle, some clamps to hold the glass, and I price the job to you and you give me the approval to go ahead and do it, then they would go back to their shop and order that. They would order the glass from a glass manufacturer, and they would order their hardware from a supplier. There's a lot of problems with that. The supplier may be out. You may have to wait for UPS. I've got caught in UPS strikes. I've got caught where UPS sent it out to another company in California by mistake. Customers yelling at me. So then we started bringing in bulk. When you get to bulk, obviously you're going to get better pricing, but you have to have storage, and now you have to have mechanisms in place to control your inventory so it doesn't walk out the door on you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your vault.
Yeah.
Right? Then when we got bigger, we were competing against other companies that were selling that same hardware that was coming from the same supplier. So we delved out and we found a supplier that would supply us as an exclusive our whole line of hardware that we were buying at a very good price, but I had to make significant investment in it and have storage space and a computer system to track inventory. Those are the struggles that the mom and pop business would have as they want to scale it. It's a cash crunch. So instead of having that cash in the bank where you could pay your payroll and pay this and pay that, you got to tie it up in inventory. It's cash and it's liquid, but it's going to take you a while to go through that inventory.
Got it.
But yes, we built up, and that took over time to build up an inventory.
Okay, so it was like incremental. You kind of saw pieces of this overall process that you could make a larger investment in, bring some of that in-house. All right, we can, reduce cost for customers, quicker turnaround time. We use the same stuff, so installation is going to be faster. It'll be smoother. We can teach people easier, things like that. And then, but it has those risks. Those are probably one of those things that keeps you up at night, is all this money tied up in the inventory. But I guess if you can, so how does that side work then? Does that now you have to be even more vigilant about looking out for sales pipelines, cash flow, things like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
A good example is a lot of our shower doors have these metal extrusions. An extrusion is aluminum that they put in a press to a whatever die shape of the aluminum that you need, and they push it through. Then it has to be finished, anodized, plated at the end. After COVID hit and everybody it's in a different state, so they were locked down, lost an awful lot of employees, yet Texas, Florida were open. New construction was abundant here. The demand was there when they opened back up. Their lead time is 72 weeks. 72 weeks.
Crazy.
Realize that? I've got to order for a year and a half ahead. Well, not a year and a half, but just about.
Close, yeah.
Right? 52 weeks is in a year plus another 20 weeks. That's what their lead time is if I ordered it today.
For those rods?
Particular extrusions.
Okay.
Yes. So fortunately, I had the business built up where we had those, and we just made it by the time our next order came.
Yeah.
I mean, just made it.
Yeah.
But it was close. But now these smaller guys that D3 sells glass to want to try and buy extrusions from us because I've kind of figured out that supply chain issue. Now the prices have gone skyrocketing, not just on the material, but the transportation of that material, whether it's UPS or a common carrier freight line. The surcharges, the diesel fuel is unbelievable now.
Yeah. Well, and so for this, what are some of the ways that you've over time kind of built up this foresight of being able to see, obviously most people didn't predict COVID happening and all these kind of issues, but if you were prepared for it and you were able to make it through that, I mean, does that come from having been burned in the past, or does it come from you get burned a little bit, but you kind of learn along the way? Like what aspects lead to you almost seeing into the future and making decisions for your business around that?
Let's not lead anybody down the wrong path. I don't have a crystal ball.
No,
and luck played a big part of this.
Okay.
Luck or karma. I don't know what you want to call it.
Sure.
We were fortunate.
No, that's cool.
A lot of fortunate things happened to us. I would like to say I was brilliant and figured it all out. Didn't happen. And it could have gone the other way.
Sure.
I could have been caught with my pants down and not had the product. But we had built up enough inventory to be able to do it. And we also figured out some types of doors to be able to sell where it didn't need those extrusions. And we could fasten that glass mechanically with small parts that I could get more readily.
Okay.
So those were other options. So we had to look at all the options, take a look at your historically of what you sold and try and project what you're going to need in the future.
Okay.
Hardest thing we're running into right now is we're bidding on some major projects that haven't even come out of the ground yet, but these are major projects. Could be 600-700 units that need 2 or 3 shower doors per unit.
Wow.
All right. They may not even be ready for us to measure for a shower doors for 1.5 to 2 years. I don't know what the prices are going to be there.
Yeah.
And these builders want us to lock in the prices. We can't do it. But they also are starting to understand that their concrete guy can't lock his price in, nor can the sheetrock and windows and doors and everything else that goes in there. That's a challenge.
Yeah.
Because they're pricing it out to the people that they're building it for. And it's tough for them to go back to say, I know I told you I could do it for X amount, and it's going to be X amount plus 30% or plus 40%.
Yeah.
But that's the way it's going to be.
I talked to a few realtors who said the same thing. The lead times are crazy, but also the cost of the materials. I think at one point it might have been for lumber, it was they would price something out for somebody, and then they'd go back to finalize the contract, and it's like, well, I know we said this was X, but it's actually 4X. So are you going to move ahead with this? And they're sitting there, well, I already invested $500,000 in this renovation or whatever it might be. I can't leave an entire chunk of my house undone. So I guess so. It's putting people in weird spots.
Everybody feels bad about it. I mean, so I get to look at both parts of it. I'm an installer, so I'm buying my glass from a manufacturer. Now, fortunately, I own the manufacturing plant too, the D3 glass. But we still buy our raw material from a float supplier. The people actually make the glass, where they pour the sand and put it in a kiln and run it down the float lines. So we're buying from major players. Those are the ones that are increasing raw materials, transportation costs. 4 years ago, a truckload of glass, they would give you an energy surcharge. It was $450 a truckload that they would tack on to the price of the materials. Just before this podcast, a text came through. It's up to $3,000 a truckload. That same truckload.
God. 2 times 2
but
times
this has
6,
gone up in
6X.
It's been over 3 years time. I mean, it went from 400 to 600 to 800, 1,200, 13, 2,100. We were sitting at $2,450 last week, and now the jump from $2,450 is going to go over $3,000 starting July 1st.
And what goes into that cost, and why do you see it going up?
Well, it all comes down to oil, gas, and energy.
Okay.
So it's energy, what the cost is for them to produce that glass, the kilns of their running. And it's not the transportation cost. That's a different charge.
Wow. Okay.
Cost.
So you have additional.
Yes.
So you have the trucking cost plus an energy surcharge from the manufacturer to actually produce this.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the way the glass industry is, and it's one of the few industries that have that particular industry energy fuel charge. But it's as long as I've been in business buying glass, even before I was in manufacturing, I always had to pay that to my fabricator. They're just passing it on from the supplier.
Got it.
So, I mean, I'm kind of in a good area being the manufacturer where I have a good feeling of what's coming down the line. But the other good thing is I'm on a national group of shower door professionals across the country. Actually, I sit on the board with the moderator of that.
Okay.
And we have weekly live stream chats about anything to do in the shower door industry. So even our guys in Canada, they were the first ones to tell us that Guardian Glass out of Michigan is the one coming up with a 40% increase starting July 1st. Now, we buy domestic glass. Thank God. I don't import it. We buy domestic glass, domestically made. So our charges aren't going to be as high as Canadian glass or something come in from Saudi Arabia or India or China or wherever else glass comes from.
Sure. So, and just curious, so being on like a board like that, are you also sharing insights about what you're seeing in the industry, changing trends, what you're noticing with?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Best practices, everything from what type of trucks that we're running, how to handle glass, safety precautions, insurance, things that we deal with, customer situations, how to handle the big box store argument, like why should I pay you this when I can go down to the big box store and buy it for this? Doing business against unlicensed contractors that really aren't following the rules.
Sure.
And there's a lot of that out there, a lot of underground business going on. Hey, I know a guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so we share best practices and how best to handle those things.
Okay. And so by doing that, right, by sharing this information, putting this out into that community, how has that transformed your business? How has it transformed the way that you look at business by being part of something like that and sharing what you've learned over 30 years of doing this?
I get to see how other people do things.
Okay.
Whether I agree or not, at least I get a better understanding. That brings me back to my sports.
Yeah.
I was an athlete. I played for coaches all my life till I got to junior hockey, right? I had some of the worst coaches you can imagine, and I had some of the best. And my job is I started coaching Keith and Doug when they were then. I picked the best from the best, and I got rid of the worst from the worst. And I made my own blend. And and I kind of do the same thing in business. I mean, I run into business people that I would never want to do business with because it's either their practices, their reputation, the way they treat me, whatever it is. And I'm sure you make those same decisions, and we all do. But we treat our vendors like they're our customer. And that's a big deal, our suppliers.
Okay.
So we have a great relationship with them as well. We pay our bills on time, which is number one they like. We're pretty accommodating if they want to deliver to us off hours, help get their drivers back. That means their driver would go out of his way to help us because we're going out of our way to help him. If you understand the two-way street and help each other out, you'll get a lot further than putting up a barrier and saying, no, you be here when I say you're going to be here.
Yeah. It's in a way you're delivering value to the customers, but you're also delivering value to the vendors because they're in business, they want to make money, they want to take care of you, but if you make it a huge pain in the ass to take care of you, they're going to not want to take care of you.
Sure.
Okay.
Take a look at I'm trying to think of a commodity out there that it was a shortage. Let's say it was plywood. Let's just say there was a shortage of plywood, and there was for a while. And you were the plywood supplier, and it was up to you in your desk who's going to get the allocation of plywood that you have available. Are you not going to look and send it to your best ones that pay you quick and have always treated you good and stood by you?
Yeah.
Or you're going to say, oh, no, here's a guy that really needs it desperately. He used to buy from somebody else. They've shut him off because of allocations, and they want me to open a new business. what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to go to the guy that's stood by you all these years and treated you right. That's what we set up, and that's why we try and stay ahead of the curve. Because at some point, there will be a glass shortage.
Yeah.
There will be.
Yeah.
And we want to be the first one to say, well, we want to make sure my shower door gets their glass.
Well, and I talked to Keith about this on here, about the social media platform and how he's used that to, and I asked him why he promotes other businesses. And one thing that he talked about just strategically that I had never considered, it's got me thinking about this a lot, but he said one of the benefits of promoting these other businesses, giving them a chance to be on his platform that he's created, is you create this goodwill. And he said when he went to the trade shows, he made these connections with people that he's been working with on social media to solidify that relationship. And it does solidify your ability to be first in line or top of mind when they have to make these types of decisions. And it takes it, one thing was fascinating, it takes it away from being just, hey, we're going to promote you and it looks good, but you're protecting your business, you're protecting the people that work for you, you're protecting the families of the people that work for you, you're protecting like this area's economy. If you're employing over 100 people, like to have a huge shortage come in and like decimate your revenue stream, like that has so many negative downstream effects. And it was just very cool to hear a strategic use of this like goodwill put out there and what kind of effects that can have on a huge business and a huge community, really. Just very cool.
People want to deal with people, first of all. They want to deal with companies that treat you like a person.
Yeah.
That are honest, they're upfront, and they're willing to help you. We bring that with our salespeople. We want to bring value to those people. Again, we're solving a problem. We're getting them a shower door. Yes, we're giving them an upscale, frameless, good quality shower door. We have staff that can service it. I mean, you can get the best car in the world. You're going to need service at some point. No matter how much you pay for that car, you're going to need service.
Yeah. Usually if you pay more, you need more service too.
And it can happen.
Yeah.
There's not that many moving parts, and rarely that happens. But when you really need service because your glass is banging against tile or another piece of glass, you want somebody there pretty quick.
Yeah.
And we offer that because we have a staff that can do that. And again, when I was a small glass shop and a mom and pop shop, I didn't have that kind of time. And you upset people. Hey, I called this guy and, he couldn't get out here for 4 days or 5 days. In today's world, that's pretty darn good if you can get somebody in 4 days. But if you can get somebody there in an hour, man, you got it. So we've got our trucks on GPS, and I've got our customer service offices, kind of like this office with big screen TVs around, and we know where every truck is at every minute. And if somebody calls for a dire emergency, as soon as they're off that installation, they can go there because logistically we see where they are.
Yeah.
And those are the things you build to, right?
Yeah. When you start getting those insights, you get the feedback from customers, you see what's working, and then you kind of realize what you have in place out there, and then what are the minor changes that we need to implement to actually execute on getting there in an hour, getting there in 2 hours. Like, put the trackers on the trucks, put some TVs up, let's manage this. And I'm assuming that created like a dispatch center or changed the way
That's exactly what it is. Our customer service center, but it's logistics, right?
Sure.
Not only does that help us with scheduling multiple jobs in a location, so we don't have a job on Sanibel and then go to Immokalee and then up to LaBelle, right? So we'll get Sanibel, Cape Coral, Fort Myers on the way back to the shop. And then you have a different truck going out there. So we're running 13 trucks a day just out of here, and that's only for our Naples, Fort Myers, Cape Coral locations.
Yeah.
But that kind of logistics really helps get efficiencies.
Yeah. Well, and going back to your point of being a person to help a person when they need it, and kind of going beyond just in your case, the installation, and being there if they need something as it goes wrong or whatever it might be. That's a big change that I've had, and we were talking about this beforehand, but that's a big change that I've had really in the past month. Is I tried to set up my business so much to be like a work for me type thing. And in the past month, after talking to these other business owners, realizing that I got it totally backwards, my conversations have been very different, and the reception from prospects and now customers has been totally different. And my mindset has changed with what I look at, what I'm willing to do, how I'm willing to help them. It's less of, let me do this and then be gone. It's, how can we do this? What do you actually need help with? I can help you implement it this way. Once you actually implement that, not only will I help you there, but I'll also share some of the things that I've learned by doing this.
That's
and
right.
then we can work that way. And one thing that's done for me, and I'm curious to know how you saw this happen, but it's now opened up 10 steps forward of potential business that a month ago was not there. It was like I was looking at a wall, and now I'm looking at a potential down the road for a year of how I might be able to help these customers. And it's entirely shifted how I'm looking at what services I can do, how I can provide it, who I might need to bring on as employees, things like that, and how I structure my time in order to be able to deliver on that. It's, I don't know, it has fundamentally changed the way that I've started looking at this.
You could advertise your logo a lot.
Yeah.
Put your live video in front of it. People are going to remember you because they want to do business with you. That's a non-entity. I mean, it's an entity, but it's not a person. Mm-hmm. You're the person. They want to deal with you. You're the one that's going to help them. That logo's not. So running a static ad, we found, we run a picture of shower door. Yeah, that gives you awareness for shower doors, but it's the Keats social media or Bill's social media that's out there and talking and saying we're part of this community. Cheer on the Everblades. I mean, the whole community can feel good about that. We won the Kelly Cup Championship.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Cheer those Everblades on. A concert comes to town. Make aware of it. You go out to dinner at a good restaurant. These guys need a pat on the back. Give them a good review. Hey, this is Bill from My Shower Door. I just want to let you know this restaurant here did a great job. Let's support them and rally around as a community. Now we all help. And I know that if somebody needs a shower door, who he's going to remember to call.
Yeah. And if you may be the only person they call. And even if not, you're going to be one of the people that they call.
Sure.
At least.
If he doesn't know a guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And
Right.
in some cases, even if he
Does
knows
know
a guy.
Yeah.
So that's been cool. And that's why I've been looking at this podcast almost as a MBA program for myself, as I'm learning so much from business owners.
If you're in business, you always need to learn.
Yeah.
Always. There's so many new things. I mean, I'm not a computer geek by any stretch of imagination. I get around on it pretty good. We've got an awful lot of software, but I'm far from that. But I've got to learn every day new things and embrace it. Don't fight it. Granted, you still need to know how to do it on paper first before you can do that. It's just like math. Instead of using a calculator, know how to do it in your head just in case you don't have that calculator.
Yeah.
You can figure it out. So a lot of the process you set up, you got to make sure it's logically thought out, and then you give it to a programmer or whatever he's going to do to write the program for you.
Yeah.
But you still have to have it up here first.
Yeah. Get it right and then build it out, and then you can automate. Well, and actually, so Sean is our intern, but the way that he came to me is because I interviewed his dad. And one of the things just in the learning process is also being challenged by people that challenge the way that you think. And he did call me out on a lot of the things that I was kind of like limiting myself in terms of what I believed I should do or should be doing, or what I thought I had to do and things like that. And that's actually been a big learning factor for me, is when people have, either respectfully called me out on something that I'm doing and identifying it. Those have been some of the biggest learning lessons for me.
Yeah, we like to call them areas for improvement.
Yeah.
So it's not that you're doing it wrong, but you could do it different. You can improve upon the way you do it and make yourself more efficient. There's a whole bunch of ways to get to that end, but you want to get there with the least pain, if you can, the least going backwards. Many times you do have to do that, But if you can navigate there and bring your team aboard with you, I mean, that's why you're the captain of the ship, right? You're going to make those tough decisions. Do we turn right? Do we turn left? Do we barge through? Or do we back up, let the dust settle, and then move forward?
Yeah.
Those are the things that you have to have the idea of your business, where you want it to go, how you want to get there. Modify along the way.
So how do you kind of craft your leadership style or your vision of leadership? Is this something that has just been, like you said, you're learning all the time? Is it something that you've been refining over time?
Communication has helped a lot, especially the use of our cell phones. We have a company-wide program called Slack where everybody talks to each other, and we have different channels. So we have management channels, installer channels, company-wide that goes to everybody. That really helps a lot so that they know what I'm thinking. I kind of know what they're thinking, and we put things out there. We celebrate successes. Of all the glaziers in the United States, we were just named number 38. Now, this includes guys that are doing skyscrapers. This includes anybody in the glass and glazing industry that does installers. My shower door came in 38 in the country, not just the state, in the country. I mean, that's huge. I don't think even our employees can grasp what that means. But that's very impressive. We've made the Inc. 5,000 fastest growing companies in the United States 7 times. That's amazing. Most people would thrive to make that list 1 time. Of the top 5,000 companies in the United States, we made that list 7 times. We may make it 8. I'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Okay. So how do you get employees bought in to be a part of that? Because a lot of it has to come from the employees too. So how do you convey that and get people on that same mission with you?
A lot of coaching, a lot of teaching and training, lots of training to train it your ways. The installers, we have a training center set up in our factory called the My Shower Door University. So I'm not sending a new installer like, Chris, if you came to work for me tomorrow, you're not going to a customer house installing a door. That wouldn't be right to the customer or to you. You're going to spend weeks in our shop learning the product, learning techniques, learning what drill bit to use on what type of stone. You're going to identify different types of stone. You're going to look at your angles, how you lay out, make your cuts, how to caulk. And when they see the money that you put into training, and they know you're a player in the game and you're doing this to do it right, because our goal is ownership. And Keith says this over and over again, we work for the employees. They don't work for us. It's up to us to make them a success in their life. They're looking for us for leadership. When they see that we're doing it for them, they're not doing it for us. And that's how they buy into it. And we set up these things, and we have these celebrations and these goals, and they're rewarded for those goals. And we hit benchmarks. And a lot of our top management, when they have their review, they're based on their goals that were given to them a year ago.
Yeah.
Say, okay, did you hit your goals? And if not, let's coach through it. Because if you hit your goal, the company's going to reach their goal, because that's why we set it up. So let's coach to it.
Yeah.
And use it as an opportunity for improvement.
Yeah. Well, and based on the people that I've talked to in businesses, and even seeing it with my dad's business when he owned it, it was very much, if you can provide that kind of environment for people, it's a space to thrive. It's not for everybody. It's not, everything's not sunshine and roses all the time. And there's still a lot of headbutting and, all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting to see when things like that change, how the entire dynamic of a company changes, and not for the better. So
no, I hate to say this, but COVID was one of the best things that ever happened to us.
Really?
Yeah, we followed Governor DeSantis's mandatory shutdown. Even though we were considered an essential business, we didn't have to. We were a manufacturer, and we were a supplier. But back in March of 20, nobody knew what was happening. We didn't know really the extent of COVID. We heard doom and gloom. So when DeSantis said, look, I'd like to at least take 30 days, shut down, we did. And we paid every employee, not knowing whether we were going to get reimbursed or not, because we just felt it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. When they came back to work, they couldn't wait to get back to work. And the culture building was phenomenal. That really helped us. Sometimes you get too caught up in your day-to-day, job-to-job routine that this has to get done and you're under pressure, that you don't celebrate your employees that help you enough. So this really made us look at, when I saw the difference in the employees when they came back to work after we treated them so well, because we didn't have to pay them.
Yeah.
We didn't have to. We could have said, hey, whatever PTO you've accumulated, we can pay you that, but we don't have any income. Can't pay you. We paid them anyhow. It made a world of difference, and our numbers just skyrocketed.
Yeah, and I saw it done that way, and I've seen it done the other way during that time, and it was night and day between the buy-in from employees, depending on which way you go. And they view leadership very differently after you make the wrong decision.
It was funny. I sat in my office, which is very similar setup to this. I took my cell phone out, I put it like that, and I created a self-video to the company.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. And we're going to set up a slush fund for any of you that can't make your mortgage payments or you can't make this. We're putting $250,000 aside as a short-term loan. So when you're back to work, we can take it back at a little at a time at no interest, back out of your pay. You know, nobody came to us and asked for any of it. They all respect, well, they got their pay, right? But nobody lost their houses. Nobody lost any of that. They didn't need a car payment. But that's what the company did too. We also said, look, this money will be here. If you come to us and show us that you need the money, we want to help you out of that.
Yeah.
And it made such a difference in the business and the culture. It really did.
Well, it puts you in a spot that when things open back up and things get roaring again, you have people that are there to be part of that, mission.
Yeah.
So I want to shift gears just a little bit,
Sure.
and because we've been kind of highlighting everything that goes into entrepreneurship, or we've pretty much touched 1% of it, but I think we've done a good job at highlighting. But you're on the board for FGCU's entrepreneurship program, so I kind of wanted to know, with all this experience and the way that you look at this and the way that you run your business, how do you take that experience and the things that you know and put that into a program like FGCU's entrepreneurship program, and how do you use that to help this next generation of entrepreneurs apply the same things or take those principles and apply them to the way that the business market is evolving now?
FGCU has got an amazing school of entrepreneurship. They just built a brand new building for that. And I'm one of many local entrepreneurs that volunteer their time there. And they come from a wide variety of businesses, from manufacturers to wholesalers to you name it. I think they've been there. Brian Rist from Storm Smart is now an adjunct professor there, teaching small business and entrepreneurship. But it's finding these students that have come and come up with their ideas and fine-tuning their ideas. We want to see, do you have a product that solves a problem? Is it priced right? Do you have a process set up? All these things that I talked to you about.
Yeah.
And they get this in your schooling, but now they want to hear it in real life. How are you going to canvas and get that market? How are you going to let people know what it is you have to do? A lot of that they don't get taught. They'll get a public relations course and they'll get some kind of an overview of marketing, but they won't get down to the nitty-gritty. And that's where we as entrepreneurs who've been burned and wasted a lot of money and have learned those things can help these students out to save those same mistakes from happening.
Yeah, or at least just let you know that it isn't the get the degree and suddenly you know everything.
Oh, gosh, no.
Yeah, and I'm going through this myself. It's just very much try something, bang your head against the wall, doesn't work, learn a little bit, move on to the next thing, and keep moving.
I'll tell you a great story. So we did this project, actually it was Keith's project with the Luggard College of Business and for international students. And each class had an assignment to take a look at our businesses and see if we could have a business in a foreign country. So one class took Mexico, one took Canada, one took Dominican Republic. And they were to give us these reports. And during that, we were the judges, and based on what they said, we were saying, you did great work, and this was lacking, and you could have done this. At the end of it, one student was selected to be an intern with us for 3 months. He had no idea of the glass business, never been in it before, really didn't have a desire for it. Now he wants to work for us. He loves it. When he got exposed to it, he could see the opportunities. So what they teach you in school is not the same as real life. Now, it gives you some basics, and I wouldn't advise hiring an accountant that didn't go to a school. There's certain things you want to invest money for. You're going to be a doctor, a scientist, you need to go to college for that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ways of making a good living without having to go to college. Now, I love FGCU. I love their entrepreneurship. But I also like the fact that, like my boys, they did not go to college, and yet they're very successful. So we're very involved with Lee County School District and trying to get the students directly into the workforce right from high school.
Okay.
And there's a great program at South Fort Myers High School run by Kevin Scheld called the Jobs for Florida Graduates, JFG. That's run by the state of Florida as a grant to these schools. And it's for career paths for these high school graduating students. Now, it could be in the health field, could be in automotive repair, welding, aviation, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There are ways of going right into the workforce. We had a student that wanted to go into real estate, and the Klopfer School of Real Estate gave him a full scholarship, and Rockstar Realty gave him the tutelage and hired him on immediately right out of high school.
Nice.
And got a real estate license for him and got him going.
Nice.
So there's all sorts of opportunities there, and we want to expose that to these students, and we want to pair up employers in the area to know that these students will be available.
Yeah.
And then we're going to give feedback to the school district. These are the type of things that you need to be teaching these students. They have to have better at math. They have to have the soft skills, the talking, the relationship skills, more so than some of the other things they're learning. And the schools are starting to see that now.
Yeah. It's and you notice it with some of the younger people is, I guess, I don't know, it's just a different way of communicating and things like that. And I actually wanted to ask you about this on the entrepreneurship front. So you hear a lot of older people say like, these kids these days, they don't know how to talk, or they don't know how to do anything, or they want everything for free. And I don't know that I buy it. I also don't think it's not happening at all, but I don't think that it's a total like blanket statement is applicable. I mean, with working with these kids, from a real entrepreneur and business owner's perspective, what's your take on their mindset and things like that?
Well, I think once those kids, let's talk about the FGCU kids, they've already made their decision that they want to work and they want to be in business, so you're not going to see that attitude from them.
Yeah.
They do want to work.
Yeah.
And they know it's going to take that. They've already invested, somebody's invested for them, whether it's family, a scholarship, or their own money. But they take it very seriously. I have not seen once from one of those students. High schoolers, different story. They're a little younger.
Yeah.
They're not mature yet. But I think the thing with them is we need to expose them to what else is available. You can make a very good living in the trades, much better now than you did years ago, and you can be proud of it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I wanted to do in the glass industry on this weekly Facebook page is elevate the glass industry. I mean, I don't see a Facebook page for carpenters. I don't see one for painters or carpet installers. They all make a good living, but they're not raising their industry. They're looking for themselves. We're trying to bring the whole industry up in the glass. Between Keith, myself, and the rest of the fellows in our group, we're doing it for the industry's sake. And I think more industry should do that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important because if kids don't know that these things are out there, they're not going to look for them. They're going to look for whatever path that people are telling them. And I kind of tell this all the time, and I don't want to be like bitter about it, but growing up, you're told for 12 years you got to go to college in order to get a good job, and then you go to college and they say you got to get good grades in order to graduate, and then when you get out you're going to have a good job. And then I did all that and I got out, and I had an opportunity to work for the family company. I wanted to go do something on my own. And so I was like, I'm going to leave this and just go out on my own and find something. And then all that was really available at that time was $32,000 a year call center jobs. And I'm thinking to myself, what was this mandatory requirement to do all this stuff when I wasn't going to be a doctor, I wasn't going to be an accountant, I wasn't going to be an engineer, like these things that you need to follow that path. And fortunately, my family paid for my college. We came down to Florida. We got the in-state tuition, so that was good. And I didn't have to deal with the debt. But a lot of my friends, people I know, they were in the same boat as me, but they took out the loans, and they're still paying that 16, 17%. And like we were talking about before, it's not digging yourself out of a hole. You're standing on quicksand digging. And,
Exactly.
It's almost like what's the point of continuing to work if I'm just working to not pay something off, but I'm giving my money to it? And I think that most kids didn't see that there was other paths. Like trades were so poo-pooed when I was going to school. Like you're like a loser if you did that. And then now, like all those guys that did that,
things change, aren't they?
They're the ones with the big pickup trucks. They're the ones that are, doing all the things that they wanted to do. Yeah. And it was interesting how that's been shifting. What are you seeing as you're trying to make kids more aware? Are you seeing this shift is kind of taking place?
Haven't experienced it firsthand yet. I see the excitement, the interest. They're a little young to get started yet. There's a big, in Florida, you have to have these licenses. Okay. And in order to get licenses, you have to have a financial background check and a personal background check, and you have to have competency in that particular field for 2 years. So they haven't had that yet. So they're not really out on their own yet. But if they get into the trades, I see them coming out of South Fort Myers High School, going to B&I contractors, working in heating and air conditioning, plumbing, welding. Galliana hired, I think, 4 for auto technicians. See, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, they may end up owning their own auto repair shop 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. That's okay. The fact that they go from high school to right into work, I think they have a head start on everybody. And they're not starting from debt. They're starting from zero going forward.
Yeah.
They're not starting. And the reason I like it so much is college isn't for everybody, and it's great. And I don't want anyone to interpret that it's wrong, but it's not for everybody. There's many reasons that some kids shouldn't go to college. Could be family issues. Maybe there's a family business that they could work in or have to work in because the parents are failing health-wise. Or there's an additional child that needs help there. And when they get out of school, they've finished their legal obligation of finishing school, and now they have to help the family.
Yeah.
Maybe they're ready for military. Maybe they need some more maturity and need some organization in their life. Whatever that is, or financially they couldn't afford college. But whatever that is, we want to expose to them that there is another career path there that you can still be proud of and make a living at.
Yeah.
And whether you start working for somebody, that's okay. I worked for many other people before I found this trade.
Sure.
But I learned from that.
Yeah.
And I had some great employers, and I had some terrible employers. But the employers that I had, I learned a lot of their leadership skills, their personality skills, what made them successful, their soft skills, how they talk to customers and their employees.
Yeah.
Made a big difference.
But sometimes in order to lead, you have to learn how to follow,
Oh, yeah.
And, I have a couple buddies that went to college, left, went to the workforce for a year or two. When they went back to college, they were much more focused. They were much more on their game because I think getting out there in the real world, you see how things really are versus what has been told to you or other people's interpretations. Because if somebody's 40 and they're telling you as a teenager, like, oh, yeah, this is the way that it is, trust me, just learn this stuff. And then you get out there and it's not that way anymore at all. It throws people for a loop. So
it does.
And the nice part about it is it doesn't going to work in this case doesn't necessarily have to exclude you from going to college. It can actually make your college experience more targeted, less of a party. I enjoyed my time at college, so not knocking it, but it can make that a little bit more resolute and sharp.
And there's a lot of aftermarket, I would call it, courses that you can take that are really focused on what you want to learn. Like in the glass industry, you can go to specific things of how to run your P&Ls, how to do this, what your inventory should look like depending on the size of your business. You can take those separately on your time.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go to a whole college course to learn that.
Yeah, agreed. Well, Bill, kind of as we're wrapping this up, I mean, we've touched on a whole bunch of things, but is there anything else that you wanted to highlight before we wrap up?
Well, knowing that this podcast is going out to a lot of entrepreneurs or startups, the one thing that I would suggest to them is reach out and find yourself a mentor. And it doesn't have to be somebody that was in the same line of business with you, but just somebody that has a good business mind that can help you. Until last year, we had a mentor. Our mentor passed away. He was 84 years old. But he worked with us for over 10 years. And it was enlightening what knowledge he brought to the table of how to treat people and how to treat customers and how to look at things. And like I said, when you're in business, you never stop learning. And I thank God every day that we had this mentor.
Yeah.
So find yourself a good mentor. There's a tremendous amount of retirees in Southwest Florida. This is the place for them to come. And there's a lot of retired guys that would be more than willing to give you a day a week just to get out of the house. You can only play golf so many days a week. You can only go boating so many days a week. But if they can help a young fella get up and going, or a young entrepreneur get started, they would be thrilled to do that. And there's a lot of free organizations like SCORE, the Society of Retired Business Owners, that will help guide you for free. FGCU has a thing called the Small Business Development Center. That's a free source for just about anything you need in business. And they'll put you on and they'll give you an advisor, which acts as a mentor. And it costs you nothing. Don't be afraid to use it. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Okay.
Especially if you see you're failing for whatever reason. You may not be failing. You're just looking at things wrong. And if you get a different attitude, just a different point of view can help you out tremendously.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, going back to Sean's dad again, but having him kind of tell me some of this stuff, and then he invited me to a mastermind group where it was 11 business owners from around the country flew in and got to share about their businesses. I got to tell them what I'm doing and get that raw feedback from people who are further along in the journey than I am. Really changed my mind in terms of what possibilities are out there and how to look at this stuff and actually seeing a path forward. So,
I always felt that was one of my strong points, was being able to connect the dots. You know enough people in the community, but try and help others connect to that person. Mm-hmm. It makes you a very valuable friend to them. That's added value, right?
Yeah.
You're able to bring them something that they didn't know. But it makes for a long-time relationship, and they'll call on you when you need help. They'll know somebody. So try and connect those dots with people and put them together, and that's so valuable.
Yeah, it's already started happening for you.
That's what this does right here. You're connecting one dot right here.
It totally has, and multiple guests I've introduced to other guests, and this person does that. These people are really good at this. Go check them out.
And I'll invite you to our location. We have a big conference room, and if you want to put together our own mastermind group, I'd be willing to host it at our place.
I've got
a big group, and you can get a few other business owners, and anybody listening here wants to be part of it. Call in. I mean, I'm a member of the Naples Chamber, Southwest Florida Inc., Above Board Chamber, and anybody I'll repost this to those chamber sites, and we'll put that offer out there for anybody so that they'll know about you. I'll try and help connect the dot to you, and then let's get it out to the business community. And, they say when the tide rises, the whole boat rises. Let's bring everybody up.
Agreed. I
love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this. And before we wrap it up, where can people find you online or connect with you, get in touch?
Anywhere. If I didn't tell you my email, you would have guessed it. So it's bill@myShowerDoor.com, right? But My Shower Door you can find on Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, you name it. We're there, Twitter. So you can find us through there. Also look for Keith Daubmann on LinkedIn. He's fun to follow. He usually does a very creative post every single day, and he stays on it every single day. But he's fun to follow. And yes, he was an absolute rock star at the Glass Show.
Yeah.
Absolute rock star. Everybody wanted a selfie with him, an interview with him. Yeah.
I know this guy.
Yeah. Mr. LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Mr. LinkedIn. I think now he's got 35,000 followers. So it's amazing.
But he's on there. He's staying
He is.
consistent.
Very
He's doing all the things that you need to do to get there.
Yep.
So it's cool to watch.
You're going to do well here, too.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming. This was awesome.
My pleasure.
So thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
Enjoy your swag.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcast. If you're a business in Southwest Florida and you want to use a podcast to grow your business, scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the show notes at www.swflpodcast.com.